We are back with obesity round 2.
Ding ding.
This is a double header.
Yeah.
Whether you guys know it or not. So if we start jumbling our words halfway through, that's why.
Yeah.
Give us a break.
It always takes us 10 minutes to get into the episode.
Yeah.
I feel like. But now that's taken care of. We're rolling.
So yeah, maybe we'll be good right away on this one.
Yeah. We're gonna start with just a bunch of the Instagram responses that we got to so the one was what do you think the driving cause of the obesity epidemic is?
Right, yeah.
And you got a funny one that
there was a couple funny ones. I'll give you the rundown. So there was easy access to fast food. People just want kind of the quick fix with minimum effort. That's the truth. This was my favorite one. People are still in the mindset that granola bars are better than steaks for overall health.
Yeah.
Pretty accurate too.
Yeah.
Easy access to misinformation. Another good one was just kind of how the landscape of like the workplace has changed so much. So now it's all based on technology. Just as competitive to get quote unquote successful, but now you need to use technology, which kind of forces you often to be sedentary for long periods of time. So that's a good point. And then there was one more. What was the last one? It'll come back to me if you want to go over yours.
Yeah, I got what do we got here? We got awareness of programs that are void of judgment and hate for those who are obese.
Okay.
That was pretty much the only one that was related to what do you think the driving force is, other than what we talked about last week with the whole education system and just the continuously lowering the floor instead of raising the floor, just to meet people where they're at instead of holding them to what we know to be true for health markers. Using averages of people who are using the healthcare system, which is like, I mean, we talked about it again. It's like most healthy people don't go to the doctor that often.
Yeah.
So it's very rare that we'll have like our blood pressure or heart rate or, whatever weight, BMI taken down, and that would be contributing to these stats for Stats Canada. So it's like most stats that they're getting are from people who are unwell going in for something, whether it be a minor cold or flu or sore throat, to I got heart palpitations and I got something growing on my foot and I feel like I'm going to pass out when I stand up, or I think I got diabetes, like things like that, right? Like fill in the blank for why you would go to the doctor. Those are the people that are contributing to these stats more, because if I get a survey thing from Stats Canada, I'm not going to fill it out.
God, no.
Right? And like, that's not good.
Yeah.
I should probably contribute a little bit more to help this problem, I guess, but yeah. So those were the main things. I think it's a really good point, the just awareness of programs that are void of judgment and hate, and then even flipping that to like programs that are being run to help people rather than just make money. I think kind of goes hand in hand with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we talked about that one in pretty good detail.
Yeah.
So I guess in line with that, I don't know a lot about these, but I'm starting to hear a little bit more about them these days, is the programs where, I don't know, I always hear them on the radio. It's like apply to get a government grant to lose weight or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard those on the radio before?
No.
So, yeah, if anyone knows the details of those, feel free to let us know, because I'd be interested to hear what goes into those. Sounds like it has good intentions, but again, doesn't mean that it's a good system based on our discussion the one day about programs out there who offer you tools to lose weight, but oh wait, at the end, if you didn't lose the weight, you have to pay us $1,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the government would turn around and say, you suck and
we'll take our subsidy back, but
give us our money. But yeah, I don't know. So if anyone knows more about those, I'd like to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. The fast food thing. So I personally, this is my personal opinion, I don't buy that as a good reason. And reason being is because, so there's a Wendy's close to my place and there's a Farm Boy right beside it.
Right.
If I go to Wendy's and get a bacon double, probably be in and out in, I don't know, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
If I go to Farm Boy and get a trio with home cooked meal for the exact same price, under $10, I'll be in and out in, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes. So,
yeah.
And so again, I realize there's some differences. Like for one, I do work from home, so I have this flexibility where I can kind of come and go as I please, get the food that I wish. I don't really have restrictions in that regard, so I can appreciate that. I can also appreciate the kids thing. Like, for instance, if you're traveling to sports or something and you have a few kids and you need to stop quickly, I think that's a tough one for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, I get why people maybe don't want to, they're on their way to Farm Boy, they're on their way to a hockey game at 6 p.m. in London. I get why they don't want to stop at Farm Boy at the busiest time of day to try and get 3 meals. So that's fair. I do think, though, that at the end of the day, people still have the choice. And I mean, even if you're going to, because that's what it comes down to, right? It's like, who's making the choice to make that right turn and go into that drive-thru at Wendy's or Don's? It's not the vehicle on autopilot driving itself. It's still you making that conscious decision.
That's right, yeah.
So that's what it comes down to. You are going there. And then even if you do go there, even most of them now have these like half-assed, decent, healthy options if you do end up going there. So that's another thing. Like you can go to like a Wendy's, a McDonald's, whatever, and you don't have to get a side of fries with a large Coke. Like you can actually go now and get, you can get one of those big ass salads with, you don't have to get a drink, just have a bottle of water in your vehicle. You can bring with you a tiny little container of like extra virgin olive oil or something like that and top the salad with it so that you're not hungry 30 minutes after eating the salad. Yeah. So I again, this is my personal opinion, but I still think that there's ways around that problem.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I don't buy the no time thing. I'm never gonna buy it. Simple exercise right now. Go to, hold on, let me check my phone. This is
a good one.
I can check my phone. So go to settings on your phone.
I'd rather not look at mine because
I'll wait.
I'll use the excuse that I use Instagram for work, which is true, but I wish there was an app on my phone that could differentiate between the time that I'm actually using Instagram for work versus the time I'm using it for just BS.
Yeah.
Because every once in a while, the only time I ever go on Instagram is with an intention in mind.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I need to post this event. I need to message this person. But a lot of times I go on with the intention and then 5 minutes later I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
So.
But how many times do you use the excuse, oh, I'm too busy or I don't have time?
I try not to.
So it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter for you because you're not using that. But it's simple. I don't even know where it is. Now I'm like all fired up trying to find this thing. What's it called?
I don't know what they call it. Total screen time, total. There is one.
Oh, here we go. It's in the battery. You can just simply go to the battery and see how much percentage battery you're using for different apps. That's one of them. Somebody's listening to this right now yelling at me like, it's right in this. You just go to this thing. Sorry, I can't hear you. I'm doing my own thing. Anyway, you can find it in your, even the battery usage, right? Like you can see how much is being used there. And you probably already know what I'm talking about when you're listening to this podcast and you're yelling at me right now, calling me a big dummy. But
well, you can set it up so that at week's end you literally get a notification. It pops up on your screen being like, hey, this is how much time you used this week.
Yeah, there's lots of time for that. And then also don't tell me that you've watched all 400 seasons of Grey's Anatomy and then tell me that you don't have time to cook meals. You know what I mean? Like your Netflix time.
There is a lot of seasons, let me tell you.
Yeah, I understand the whole downtime thing, but you can throw a cookie sheet with veggies and a cookie sheet with meat in the oven, set the timer, sit down, watch your favorite show, the beeper goes off, you pull it out, you put it in Tupperware, boom, you're ready for 2 to 3 days to a week, depending on how much food you put in at a time. Meal prep doesn't have to be... I think the demise of meal prep was the Sunday meal prep thing, where people would spend... They're like, oh, I got to spend my entire Sunday in my kitchen creating all these meals. Stop being silly about your meal prep. Just cook food and eat it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that complicated, guys. Just relax. You got crock pots. You got one of those... What are those crazy crock pots? Instapots.
Those are insane.
Cook a whole roast beef in 2
I must
seconds.
say, though, I'm not... Maybe I shouldn't say this. No, I'm not going to say this.
No. Gonna say that one?
Well, I just don't get how you can cook a slab of meat and, like, from frozen. It's just...
I'm a little concerned.
I'm just skeptical. Like, it doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
But go for it. I'm not going to talk you out of that one.
So,
Again, I don't know what the mechanism that it's using, so I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
Use your Instapot. Meal prep.
Yeah. And I like to use experience because that's all I can speak on. So, like, when I was a kid, I was involved in a lot of different sports. I would have school sports after school. I'd kind of come home, I'd eat, and then I'd be off to hockey or martial arts or something in the evening. Like, that was 5 days a week, and then on the weekends it was kind of the same story. Obviously, when I was younger, I wasn't responsible for my own eating, so it kind of came down to my parents, right? Because, I mean, you don't cook your own meals when you're 8 years old, 10 years old. Your parents are doing that for you. So, they did it for me. And then once I got old enough, it was like, hey, I left this in the fridge, pull it out, put it in at this temperature, and then it'll be ready for when I get home, we can eat, and then we'll go to hockey. Right. Things like that, instead of, like, your kids playing Fortnite.
Put them to work.
Put them to work, man. Right? Like, it's all part of, like, growing up and discovering those things out for yourself. But, like, that squashes the whole time thing. And it's not, like you said, it takes the same amount of time to go to Farm Boy as it does Wendy's. And yeah, maybe you're able to get there at non-peak times, but are you going to sit in the Wendy's drive-thru for 20 minutes waiting for your meal to get ready, or are you going to run in and wait in line to pay at the cash in Farm Boy? Yeah. It's kind of the same. It's the same amount of time that you're spending doing both. I think what it comes down to is just the whole well, it's kind of like glamorized to say you're busy. Yeah. This happens to me all the time at family gatherings and things like that. Like, oh, how's work going? And everyone's like, oh, it's busy. Like, what the fuck does that mean? That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm so confused by that response every single time. Like, okay, what does that mean? Is it good or is it bad? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's so, like, just surface level response that doesn't tell me anything about your day, and I'm done with you. I'm done with this conversation. I'm out.
I'd rather someone just say, it's great, I don't want to talk about it.
Exactly. Oh, I'm at a family thing, I don't want to talk about work.
That's fair.
Yeah. Like when people ask me, I will actually start explaining it, and you can just watch them check out. It's like, oh, you've exceeded my 2-second allotted time for your response that I had ready for this, and now I actually don't care anymore. It's pretty funny.
That's a good point. I guess you could say that with the fast food thing, I guess the only thing is, yes, I would say you do have to at least, in your head, kind of plan ahead of time. That doesn't mean, like, the meal prep is one example, but another example is just, hey, I know I'm going this place later today. There's probably not going to be a lot of options at that particular location I'm going to, so I should probably stop before I actually leave the city of London, something like that. Because fast food restaurants are everywhere. Other better options may not be there.
Right.
So that scenario, you have to be conscious and think about what your options are.
Yeah, if you're relying on the concession stand at their arena for your meal,
right,
you're setting yourself up for a world of hurt. You're going to be having a blue slushy and onion rings for dinner. It's not going to make you feel very good.
Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, for sure. What's that steak granola bar thing? This is an amazing response.
That's a funny one.
Yeah.
That's from a smart dude, too. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. Not much to say about that. I think It's pretty accurate, though, to be honest. I guess that kind of revolves around the idea that a lot of people still fear fats, still fear animal protein, still fear saturated fat. Did I already say saturated fat? No, I said cholesterol.
Yeah.
So, and then granola bar, probably marketed as
Quick healthy snack.
Yeah, you see it on commercials as a great breakfast option. Might be marketed as low fat, cholesterol free. They might even throw low sugar on there because they'll replace those with preservatives. So yeah, I see where that confusion comes from.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. You had something that you wanted to get it since we're on the topic of food content.
Yeah.
You have a theory.
I do have a theory. Probably not a very common theory, so this is probably new to you.
Nice.
So the obesity, we're talking about why is it such a big issue? So I think that one major reason is actually the under consumption of salt, under consumption of sodium. So that's been around for a long time. I can tell you that there's been some massive meta-analyses in previous years coming out that basically debunk the concept that higher sodium diets are increasing risk for cardiovascular disease. And I think there's been some pretty, for obvious reason, like some pretty big like lashback to some of these articles. This was a few months ago when I dug into this, but even publishing authors coming out writing papers in response to this, basically just this is BS, yada yada yada, we have all this research to say otherwise, so on and so forth. Like people who clearly have like an emotional tie to this and are not too happy with it. But anyways, these have been published in, like, the one that comes to mind was published in The Lancet, which is like one of the biggest medical journals in the world. And they're not small studies. Like I posted this to my Instagram a ways back, but they're looking at like thousands and thousands and thousands of people, finding that like not only is higher sodium diets tied to increasing risk for like some of these cardiovascular diseases, but they're even finding that like in a lot of cases higher sodium diets are actually reducing risk for people. But anyways, that's kind of a separate issue. Like that's more background on where this fear actually came from. Low sodium, which is still everywhere, right?
Yeah. Like you buy soup, low sodium soup.
It's everywhere, yeah. And I think this is kind of another separate issue, but I think this kind of got blown out of proportion because low sodium is really only an issue for people who have already had cardiovascular disease. This is the understanding I have on the topic. Again, I'm by no means do I have like a medical education on sodium, blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, and all of that stuff. I'm just telling you what I've read in the literature. This is what it shows. But anyways, so my thinking is that because we've been told to significantly reduce sodium, I think that this has led people to overeat sugary foods and carbohydrates. Reason being is because, so like when you think of, like we have to think of sodium as like probably the most important mineral there is. Like really, like the fact that we're told to reduce this is actually pretty insane when you start to learn about like what sodium does, what it's responsible for. But yeah, so the reason I say this is because there's crossover in the brain between the networks that sodium activates and the networks that sugar activate. So what I mean by that is there's areas in the brain called, you can kind of just call it the reward center as a oversimplification, but these are areas of the areas of the brain that are responsible for like positive feedback or like reward or also addiction. So these are regions that are very high in concentration of dopamine. So like to give you an example, Parkinson's disease is a result of death of dopaminergic neurons, so neurons that release dopamine. So people with Parkinson's disease have this massive reduction in dopamine, and it's from these particular regions of the brain that I'm talking about basically waste away and die. So like one of these areas, for an example, is called the Nucleus Accumbens. So when we eat salt, sodium, we have this rewarding response in some of these areas. So we get a release of dopamine because, hey, it's necessary for survival. So this is a good thing. Give me this. I want this. But the problem is we kind of have this crossover effect now where people get a similar response from sugar and carbohydrates. So if people have, and this is a real thing, like if people are experiencing this, like even like reduction in energy, headaches, muscle cramps, low like muscular energy in general, like all of these things, people think like, hey, I'm weak, I'm fatigued, a little bit of like a withdrawal effect even, and then they don't think sodium, they think, okay, carbohydrate, sugar, because in the past when they've felt that way and then consumed this sugar, carbohydrate, they get that exact same rewarding effect. And so they think, oh, okay, this is the problem, this is what I need to address that. And it's literally these exact same networks that both of those nutrients are stimulating. So I think that, and I'm not just blowing smoke up my ass, like there's some research to suggest this out there where this could be an underlying cause. And actually, so interestingly, just to kind of drive this point home, it's been shown that people with drug addictions, their addiction can be like worsened or exacerbated by sodium deficiency, because these drugs are acting in the exact same region, that exact same dopaminergic pathway. Right. So that kind of supports that there's this overlap here and this crossover. And then kind of like back to like just the importance of sodium and whatnot. So there's been some leading researchers, scientists and MDs in this area who specialize in like sodium, why we need sodium for the brain, overall health, et cetera, who say that we need like, I think they say that we should be getting anywhere from like 3 to 6 grams total per day in sodium. And I think some of the recommendations right now are like, it's low. It's like 1.2 or something like that.
1.2 grams?
It's something like that. So like, again, obviously like it's pretty clear that we can be in this deficit right now if this is what we're being recommended, like especially active people, especially people who are chronically stressed, because you burn through extra sodium if you're excessively stressed. Your adrenal glands use sodium, all of these things. And then like, even if you think about like what we as humans used to eat, well, some of the foods that are the highest in sodium are actually organ meats, like kidneys, liver, blood, very, very concentrated in salt. So these are things that humans used to, live off of, right?
Right.
So when you think, why would we need sodium? We didn't drink ocean water and we didn't have salt shakers. Well, no, because they ate the whole animal and sodium was abundant in all of these areas.
Right.
So I think there's something there. If you ever want to read an awesome book on this, it's called The Salt Fix by Dr. James DeNicomo or something like that. So this guy, and I think this was the one who I think recommended or suggested we should actually be getting upwards of like 4 to 6 grams. But anyways, I need to go over this book again because he digs into all of this in like way more detail and makes some incredible points and talks about some of these connections in the brain, and it's pretty interesting read and like mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot when you say it out loud, but that's not very much.
No.
Right? It's not like you're taking a big swig out of the salt shaker in the morning, like it's a couple tablespoons.
Yeah.
Right? Like think, like, I don't know, 5 grams of anything is like maybe a tablespoon, depending on the density of of what it is, right? So like you're not talking a massive amount or
not
anything
at
like
all.
that. And I mean, this is kind of like, for me, a lot of my salt intake, it's food related. I salt all my food, but drink it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like this salt and lemon water.
Yeah.
If you haven't done this yet, like warm water, salt,
It's
and
a
lemon.
game changer.
Game changer. It's the best.
It is.
It's the best part of the morning for sure. That and a cup of Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to go.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's so true. I think part of the problem could be there's some kind of crossover effect that I'm not as familiar with, where I think we tend to hang on to a little bit extra sodium if our insulin is always elevated. So now if you think about, okay, this obesity thing, what's going on in this obesity epidemic? Well, low sodium, yeah, but also people are over consuming sugary carbohydrates throughout the day, and that's keeping their insulin spiked like all day long. Mm-hmm. And so that's retaining a little bit of the sodium. So I mean, in a sense, the demand is higher for people who are on a whole foods diet,
right?
More than people who are eating I don't know, just quote unquote crappy diet. So I think that's maybe where a little bit of the confusion comes from. Yeah,
because it's easy to fulfill those requirements with your craving for French fries or potato chips or a burger, because the sodium levels in those foods are so high. But that just kind of gives you some insight as to why your body is craving those things. If you just ate more salt in a whole foods diet and season, don't eat like boiled chicken breasts and plain broccoli, like season that stuff up a little bit, and you'll find that your cravings for those non-essential foods, we'll call them, just stuff that you're just tossing in your mouth because you can't control your feelings at that point in time. It's like it's a chemical response that your body's searching for.
And if you've never tried just like a steamed vegetable covered in salt, it is unreal. Like
potato chip.
That's
what it is.
It's such a game changer.
Yeah.
For years and years and years, I hated things like broccoli, green beans, etc. But as soon as you add like some pink sea salt on that, maybe a little bit of pepper, man.
Yeah.
Game.
I mean, you can get the exact same, because people get like, different mouthfeel and all this stuff. Like you can get like the crunchy vegetables and I don't know, you got to find stuff that works for you. Right. But that you got to be aware of what your body's doing, because your body has a reason for why it's craving certain things. Yeah. And if you don't have this information that Chet just shared with you, it's easy to just like, oh man, I want a burger so bad, but really you're deficient in your sodium level for whatever reason. So you're craving something that from past experiences gives you the response that would nullify that craving that you're having. And if you don't give it that, you're going to go to something sweet because it's the same mechanism, or to your drug of choice, caffeine maybe.
Yeah,
Right?
When I was talking about those, I was thinking more like cocaine and methamphetamine, but that too, yeah.
But like midday after lunch.
That's true,
or something like that. Somebody who's in a sedentary sort of environment, or even us where we're up. Reality is our job can be very sedentary.
Yep.
On the computer, doing the computer stuff, on the phone, doing seminars. Yeah, you're standing or sitting, whatever. Coaching still, like you're up and moving, but it's not. Yeah, it's not like you're laying brick or anything that's excessive. So you get those cravings. You got to play with the podcast is named this for a reason, right? Like you have to experiment with yourself to do.
Good point. Yeah.
To find out what works for you, right? That's all we're trying to do.
We don't bring up the name very often, but that was nicely done.
There it is.
Yeah. Damn right. That's a good practice, I think, for people to have, is just even 2 times a day.
Yeah.
2 times a day, drink some, if possible, some warm water so that your body doesn't have to work to change it to body temperature to absorb it. Some warm water with a couple cranks of sea salt in there. bonus points for a little bit of lemon.
Yeah.
It's honestly it is a game changer.
Yeah.
Big time.
For me, the lemon just makes it taste better.
Yeah.
The salt water for me, it's like, God. It literally tastes like you're drinking the ocean, right? But you mix some salt in there, like, it levels it out a little bit. It's nice.
And start putting some salt on your food.
Especially if you're someone who has these uncontrollable quotation mark cravings.
Right. Yeah, good point.
It could really, really be of a benefit to you. And you're going to hate it when it works, because then you can't go be like, oh no, I just actually want French fries or nachos and cheese, right? Like,
that's right.
So sorry about that. Sorry for ruining that for you for the rest of your life. Now you know what it is.
But let us know if you try the salt thing and you notice a big change.
Yeah, because I mean,
even better, use hashtag experimenting with fitness if you do it.
Yeah, let's go with that. Sure, let's start a hashtag.
Experimenting
with fitness.
It's out there now. With a better one. But
experimenting with fitness is out there. Hashtag everything. Maybe we'll create a leaderboard on the game's website too. Just kidding. I'm not actually going to do that. Cool.
Nice.
I think we squashed that one. We had so the follow-up question that I think both of us posted on Instagram.
Yeah, we got to get into this one.
Yeah, was what sort of strain do you feel obesity puts on our emergency? Actually, I think I just said healthcare services, but I got a lot from there, but I got a lot more volume of responses from people in the emergency services that I didn't even think about it would be a problem. So let's go with that one first, because it's a little bit less emotional. It's more just like, this is a lot of work for us. So, had a story here that, firefighter, they have one guy that they go to very regularly, just to get him back into his bed. And it takes 2 fire crews. So that is 8 guys plus 2 medics. So think about it this way. Your emergency services are being tied up because someone is so morbidly obese that they can't get themselves from where they are back into their bed.
Jeez.
Think of if we're looking at it from a dollar perspective, think of the money that's being used to do that, right? Every call costs a good chunk of cash. But more importantly, think about if, not to get too completely gutless here on this obese person that they're seeing, but imagine being the obese person that needs help getting back into bed. You're tying up a service that is now 15 minutes late to a car accident, and if they were there 15 minutes earlier, they could have saved someone's life. Okay, very extreme example, but hard to say that that's never happened. We had a paramedic respond. We've had calls that take up to 5 paramedics and 2 fire crews just to move 1 person. So that's 8 guys plus the 5 paramedics. So that's 13 people to move 1 person. That ain't good. We got some general responses, just it's the driving force of basically all calls that we go on. So these are paramedics, patient transport from hospitals, so things like Voyager and things like that go pick up people from their house to take them to their hospital. They're requiring more crews out there to get them there. I
actually would have never guessed this, to be honest, that this is what the majority or a lot of it is used towards.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, well, I don't know, I guess I'd have to ask them if it would be majority, but it's definitely.
Well, sorry. I thought wasn't there one comment in there that it was 70% or something like that?
Oh, that's from.
Or I guess maybe that's a little different.
That one was a little bit different, but that was a good conversation too. So this was a Instagram conversation I had with a nurse in London area. I asked her. Well, she responded to the thread with a fairly emotional response, just basically just voicing her frustration with the fact that people who don't take responsibility for their health expect these individuals, so nurses, healthcare practitioners, doctors, emerge doctors, and just the healthcare system in general to quote unquote fix them, right? So they're coming with a preventable disease and they're taking up a bed or they're taking up resources and time from someone who, so this is from an ER nurse, so I should specify that. So it's taking up time from that. She said 75%, her guess, are people that are in there due to their own negligence, basically, right? So people, they're clearly just unwell individuals, and that's the main reason why they're there, due to their lifestyle choices and the choices that they made in their life.
Right.
They've now found themselves in the emergency room due to pain or discomfort or sickness or fever or whatever. She said 20% of ER visits are probably from elderly people in some sort of a decline, and it's an emergency that they need care. And she says about 5% would have been people coming to the emergency room due to like a trauma, which is typically, when I think emergency room, that's what I think should be done, right? Like acute injuries, car accidents,
heart attack, stroke, pregnancy.
Yeah, things like that, like legitimate emergencies for whatever reason coming through that door. And just like a first-hand experience, the last time I was at Emerge was when Kayla broke her elbow. So Kayla has a acute injury that happened. It's a trauma injury. And I'm looking around the waiting room, which is fucking full to the brim, ridiculous. Like standing room only.
People living in London, I shouldn't tell this actually. This is a little secret. I was going to tell them to go elsewhere because you won't have to wait, but I'm not going to tell you what hospital to go to that's within 45 minutes of London that you'll get into right away.
Just draw a little circle on Google
DM
Maps
me, though.
Be able to figure it out. Yeah. So I'm looking around, and it's, for the most part, what this person explained. Like, there's some elderly people there that are clearly needing some sort of medical attention for whatever reason. There's a few people in, like, slings, maybe two, including Kayla. The rest is just like people coughing. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like using up or taking up space in an emergency environment when you have a cold.
Yeah.
Like there's walk-in clinics. Not everyone has the luxury of having a family doctor, so that's fine. Not everyone has benefits, so that's fine. But a walk-in clinic is still available to people. Like go to somewhere like that instead. And then she said, 75% of the people that she would see is her estimate of people that are just like not healthy due to the choices that they make. That's pretty astonishing.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. She's had some extreme ideas on the fact that since there's no real incentive for people to be healthy, that people are choosing just to be unhealthy. And if people had to pay for their own care, then she thinks that there would be a bit of a change.
Well, just look at the U.S.
Yeah.
It's not working.
It's not working, right? I think that's a very utopian idea as well. It's like, everything's just going to work out. If we make everyone pay for their own stuff, then they're going to put more of a value to their health. And I'm not really feeling that idea, and especially like we were talking last podcast about somebody like Jen, right? Like,
yeah,
somebody who is health conscious her whole life gets cancer? Do you want that person? Like, I find it very insensitive to have that, but I can understand coming from a point of frustration why somebody who's in that environment all the time would finally be like, I'm tired of this. Like,
yeah, totally.
And then just start grasping at straws to make people care more. And I that's 100% where that came from. So I can understand her point of view. I'm not the one that has to deal with these people every single day. So I totally understand where she's coming from. But I just, like, anything that's that political and like socioeconomic in nature, like I can't touch on that. ignorance is
gotta
bliss
be a
when it
better
comes to that kind of
solution,
stuff for me. Yeah.
Better solution, but same thing as last time that I said. I don't know what the solution is. But it, like, again, it'd be interesting to get like someone on here who has that like firsthand experience, see what they think about it, what they think could be done about it.
Yeah, because they'll have
Medical
stories
doctor,
from experience that are like,
yeah.
that would bring maybe a lot of clarity to why she feels that way, because
Totally.
it's hard for us being outside of it to really understand where that's coming from. I mean, I don't really think that's... another idea was having some sort of like rebate system in place for gym memberships and things like that for people, which, I don't know, like government sort of rebate things. Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of employers are starting to pay for gym memberships, or at least have like
I like
allotted
that a
bank.
lot. Yeah, like wellness benefits.
I
really like that idea.
It's limited at like maybe even a couple $100, or if you have more, it's a little bit more. I'm not really sure. I don't have it, but
that's definitely, I agree with that one. That's definitely something that I think needs to be out there more. Yeah,
because I mean, you just think about the cost for the company with people on sick days and things like that from preventable things like obesity. Like, can these people work? I mean, if it takes 13 people to get you from wherever you are to into your bed, you're not working.
Well, and even like worker satisfaction and worker productivity, it's no brainer.
Yeah.
But, there's one other thing. The benefit. Oh yeah. So another thing I'm hearing a little bit more of lately that I think is also seems to be, again, I don't know shit about like socioeconomical factors and whatnot, so maybe this is a terrible idea to the people who know more about this, but one thing I've heard more of that seems to me to be a good idea is some life insurance companies actually take into consideration basically your overall health, and will give you like, essentially they give you discounts if they come to the conclusion that you're in better health due to these things we're talking about, like, you know, nutrition, exercise, what your last checkup was. So maybe there's some problems in there. Maybe checkups need to be more, I don't know, more in depth, like actually doing some blood work and whatnot, like for this to work. Again, I don't know everything that's going into this. These are just some things I've heard, and I think that at the very least it definitely has some potential. Like if anytime you can recognize as a company that people are healthier and thus probably deserve a little bit of a cut on their life insurance, I think that's fair. It's just more incentive for people to, you know, put time and effort into something that's really, really important. Yeah, I like that it incentivizes people that are healthy rather than... So right now, like, my grandpa, it's his 80th birthday today. Nice. Shout out to Paul Brush. Guy's a gangster. He was back in the hospital this weekend, some complications. But he's back home for his birthday today. Good. He's kicking, doing his thing. But somebody like him who's suffered a stroke, he has cancer, he's on a decline. He's not doing so hot. But for somebody like him, it's very, very difficult for him to get any sort of health insurance or anything like that due to his state. So maybe instead of penalizing somebody for being ill or unwell, maybe it's better to just reward the people that are well and are probably going to end up costing you less money. But I can see from a business standpoint how somebody who has suffered a stroke and has cancer and has been in the hospital a number of times in the last 3.5 years since he first got sick, that like they're looking at that as like that's automatic money that we're going to have to be putting out for that person. But it could balance it. I don't know. Yeah. Again, it's like I'm way too ignorant with these things. Like, ignorance is bliss sometimes when it's like, that just sounds like a good idea. Somebody in the insurance world is probably like, you guys are a couple idiots. That's not how that works. Come on the show. Yeah. Educate us, please. Yeah. So that's one idea, I guess. I like the wellness benefits thing. Obviously, productivity goes way up for people. Yeah. Some sort of incentive there. Fast food's not going to go anywhere. All these external forces aren't going to go anywhere, so people just need to be better. Yeah.
And that's...
I guess one thing we never really talked about was that, like, people are, I mean, they're kind of behind the eight ball from the very beginning in that, like, it's an uphill battle because these days you go into a grocery store and 90% of the foods in there were literally chemically engineered in a way to, like we talked about earlier, like, take advantage of your neurological underpinnings and provoke like reward and addiction, basically.
Right.
So I think that's definitely something worth noting. So yes, like, and this is obviously one of the things that makes it a little bit more difficult, I think. But again, I mean, I think with something like that, like, there's some pretty applicable tools you can use. Like, that, I think the simplest and most basic one is literally just don't even go in the middle aisles of a grocery store. I mean, I don't know, I think most people kind of know this nowadays, but literally if you walk around the outside of a grocery store, you're seeing basically next to zero, like, of the sugar processed crap, right? So
yeah, for the most part,
that's an option, something you can do.
Yeah. Just I mean, really planning it out ahead of time, like knowing what you're gonna,
or even just challenge yourself, like, whichever day you go to the grocery store, if you go once or twice a week, maybe your 1 time per week trip is on a Sunday. So say, all right, this upcoming week, this Sunday when I go to the grocery store, just challenge myself. I'm just going to go around the outside of the aisle. Just buy foods from the outside of the aisle and then see what happens for the rest of the week. Like, don't even give yourself the choice. Once you venture into those middle aisles and buy the foods, again, this is directed at people. I was going to say this is directed at people who are actually making a conscious effort for weight loss, but I don't think I should say that based on what we've talked about. Like, we talked about these people who just don't care, and that's no good for society. That's no good for the medics, paramedics, and all of that. So, yeah, just simplify things, I think. Just stick to the outside of the aisle, challenge yourself, see what happens for the next week. You might find that it's a whole lot easier than you thought.
Yeah, people can be a lot more gentle with themselves too. Just expecting to change everything all at one time, especially if, like, you're somebody. I mean, the people that are morbidly obese, right? Like, we're talking, like, the people that need 13 people to get them from point A to point B. There's a lot of interventions that need to happen for that individual before, I mean, there's any sort of change. And, like, it can't be, at that point, you almost don't have the choice anymore. Like, it's not, that individual is so far into that food addiction and that cycle that doesn't take diet and exercise to fix. That takes some serious psychological interventions in order to help that person. I mean, have you seen 600 Pound Life before?
I think so. It's been a long time, but
yeah, I watched it a couple times, and it's really the hardest part about that show. It's easy to look at and just be like, oh, they're a lazy slob, right? That could be something that somebody would think watching that show. But if you really pay attention to the little things that are happening in that show, usually they have a partner as some sort of sexual drive or fetish towards people who are severely overweight, or their partner has some sort of deep-seated need to be needed,
right.
And them providing that person with what they want and what they need gives them some sort of reward internally for them that they're also addicted to. So you have somebody who's addicted to food being supported by somebody who's addicted to the feeling of being needed for whatever reason, both of which are probably coming from some sort of traumatic events that you can't just put your finger on and be like, oh, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's going to take a lot of therapy to bring up, if the person's even willing to do that. Like, it's so, when it gets to that point where it's so far that gone, you can't just be like, oh, that person needs to eat better. What are you doing? You're not, no shit. But, like, that's not the problem that these people are having. It's in the relationships, it's in their mindset, they're addicted, they have imbalances in their body that
Those people are not happy. That's for damn sure. Put it that way.
No, they're really, really struggling on levels that are beyond just like...
Yeah.
And I mean, could that have been prevented by implementing things that we're talking about, like wellness programs or like wellness incentives or better movement education or things like that? Who knows? I would lean more towards no than yes.
Right.
Because I think there's so much available that once that starts, and it probably started so young. Like, to get to be 600 pounds, you got to get a head start on that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you only have so many years, right? Like, if you're going to be gaining, think about how much weight you have to gain, like, a year to get to be that heavy, even by the time you're 50. Like,
yeah,
you're packing it on a steady rate for a long time. And most of these people were, like, the 2 episodes I saw, one was 19. Like,
jeez.
That's incredible. And then the other was late 20s. I forget exactly, but late 20s for sure. Like, those are young people. And if you're that big when you're 19, that happened before you had control of what was going in your mouth. You weren't buying your groceries, you weren't cooking your food, you weren't creating that for yourself. So got to have a lot of empathy for people like that instead of just making fun of them and saying...
Yeah. So I guess the key takeaway there is that you definitely have to differentiate between, like, you can't just lump, when we talk about obesity, you can't just lump everyone into one category, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, you have to definitely differentiate. Like, there's kind of different groups, different needs. So, like, some of these things we're talking about, would they work for some people? I don't know. Hopefully. Would they work for everyone? Definitely not.
Right.
So that's part of the challenge.
Yeah. Kind of think about it this way. Like, there's people, like, everyone gets sad, right? They feel sad. Most people, when you get sad, you're able to, like, let that happen, feel however you're going to feel, and then you bounce back and you're back to normal and however long it takes for you to feel better. Mm-hmm. But somebody who has depression, clinical depression, doesn't have the same ability to process. Those are not the same feelings or emotions, right? Those are sadness and depression are two different things. Making poor lifestyle choices and being addicted to food and having, like, the extreme, those are two completely different things too, that need two completely different interventions in order to help those people. Mm-hmm. So you gotta be careful when you're talking to people. Just you can't just lump people together, like you said.
Yeah,
you gotta distinguish between the two.
I think we covered it all.
I think so.
There's maybe a few other, like, points in there, but
yeah, I got to all these. Yeah. Yeah, most other feedback was just, it came down to political things like funding,
right.
youth sports, funding gym memberships, paying for personal trainers and dietitians. Employers paying for personal trainers and dietitians, fund community groups, subsidizing farmers, like, all things that are way outside of our expertise.
Right. Yeah, so we'll leave those.
We tried to gently touch on those things, but it's like, we don't know.
I think I had one or two, but they'd be good ones to leave until a later episode. I guess some more, like, practical things even. Just kind of like there being far too many tools out there makes it hard to actually kind of decide on one, pick one, what to use. Misinformation. Misinformation, like, this is something we try and talk about in every episode anyways, so I think that'll keep coming up. Yeah. So we did our best to touch on all of them.
Got to most of them. All the feedback on Instagram really goes a long way for us.
You gave us say that again.
2 episodes of content just from people engaging with us, so thank you. If you're somebody who reached out. We're going to agree or disagree, but that's up to us. And you can agree or disagree with us, and that's up to you. Yeah, exactly. You don't take it personally. know. You can find
Guests,
this
right?
podcast everywhere, right? Yeah, guests are coming up.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit last episode. Got one for sure to
So,
be determined on the day.
We'll have to decide. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to decide like if episodes with a guest are going to be like a bonus episode in that same week, or if it'll just be another week altogether.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Guess it depends.
How ambitious we are.
Yeah, how many ideas we have that week. Some weeks the ideas are flowing. Other weeks I'm like, I don't know what to talk about.
It's 20 minutes before and we have no ideas.
Yeah. This episode will be final week of the Open when it gets released, I think. Right, week 4 next week.
Second last one, I think.
Yeah.
I think this will be released the day before 18.4.
I
think.
19.4.
Sorry, yeah.
So if you're doing the Open, good luck. It's been fun so far.
Yeah.
We're playing a little end of Open
Nice.
party for the West London CrossFit crew.
Is there going to be a documentary though? There is, but so I seen something the other day. Actually, CrossFit Games posted it. What's his name and the boys, the film crew.
Yeah.
It sounds like they still did something, but it's a little bit different. Like it seems like they're only maybe focusing on 4 to 5 or 5 to 10 athletes in total instead of covering the games as a whole. I don't know. Could be wrong. I just kind of glanced at this the one day and didn't actually go into detail on it. But I hope they have something.
Yeah, I love those like day in the life ones where you just they just follow
cool.
an athlete around. It's always cool to hear like their just how they talk and carry themselves on a day-to-day basis. It's pretty clear what makes them the top of the top when you hear the way they talk and act, and it's very, very deliberate. Everything is deliberate. It's pretty awesome.
I was surprised that CrossFit Games posted it though.
Yeah, they've been doing really good at like communicating where the live streams are going to be at and like where you can find more information, even though they don't necessarily have their own coverage of anything right now. I mean,
didn't they fire those guys and then they were still mentioning them?
Yeah.
So
maybe they feel bad.
I don't know.
Yeah. Having second thoughts.
They should. Those are some good flicks.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well,
see you next time.
Bye-bye.